It's weird to even type this out. I've been staring at the blinking cursor for, I don't know, maybe an hour? My hands are still shaking. Just a little bit. You probably won't believe me. I mean, even I have trouble believing it sometimes, and I was the one standing there in the dark. But I have to get it down. I have to put it into words because if I don't, it's just going to keep eating at me. It's going to stay inside my head, bouncing around like a trapped bird, and I can't handle that. I need to get it out. So, okay, let's start with the house. That seems like the right place. It wasn't my house. It belonged to my Uncle Jerry and his wife, Karen. They're nice people, you know? The kind of people who have everything together. They live about 40 minutes outside the city, in this sprawling mid-century modern place tucked way back in the woods. It's beautiful, objectively speaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows, polished concrete floors, minimalist furniture. It looks like something out of a magazine. But the thing about houses with that much glass, well, at night, when the lights are on inside and it's pitch black outside, you turn into an exhibit. You can't see out, but everything out there can see in perfectly. I never thought about that before this happened. I just thought, hey, cool house, free food, easy weekend. Jerry asked me to house sit while they went to some winery tour in Napa. Feed the cat this fat. Grumpy tabby named Buster watered the ferns. Just made sure the place didn't burn down. Easy, right? I got there on a Friday evening. It was raining. Not a storm, just that steady gray drizzle that makes everything look soaked and heavy. The tires of my Civic crunched on the gravel driveway, sounding loud in the quiet. The woods were dense on both sides. Tall pines mostly. They blocked out a lot of the sky. I unpacked my stuff in the guest room. It was downstairs, down a long hallway past the kitchen. I remember feeling comfortable. Yeah, I felt good. I ordered a pizza, which took forever to deliver because the driver got lost, and settled in on the massive beige sectional in the living room. I put on some mindless comedy series. I laughed. I ate pepperoni pizza. I drank a soda. It was so normal. It was so dangerously normal. Around 11 p.m., the rain picked up. I could hear it drumming against the big glass panes. It was a soothing sound, mostly. I was tired from the week. My job at the call center had been brutal, so I started dozing off. You know that feeling when you're drifting? Your head gets heavy. Your thoughts get slippery. I was right on the edge of sleep when I heard it thump. It wasn't loud. It was dull, like a heavy book falling off a table onto a carpet. I jerked awake, blinking. The TV was still flickering, casting blue light across the room. I muted it. I sat there, freezing, just listening. Silence. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the rain. Buster? I whispered. I waited for a meow or the sound of claws on the concrete floor. Nothing. I rubbed my face. It's an old house, I told myself. Well, not old, but big. Houses settle. Pipes bang. Wood expands. It was physics. Simple physics. I unmuted the TV. I tried to focus on the jokes, but the relaxation was gone. A tiny thread of tension had pulled tight in my chest. 10 minutes later, I needed to use the bathroom. The guest bath was down the hall. I got up, stretching, and walked past the kitchen island. That's when I saw it. The back door. The one that leads out to the patio and the pool area. It was unlocked. I stopped dead. I stared at the little silver thumb turn on the handle. It was vertical. Unlocked. Now, listen. I know what you're thinking. You forgot to lock it, but I am. I am neurotic about locks. I live in a crappy apartment in the city. I lock my door when I go to get the mail. When I arrived, Jerry had walked me through the alarm system, which was currently disarmed because I didn't want to set it off by accident, and I had checked the doors. I distinctly remembered checking that back door. I remembered the click it made, or did I? Doubt. That's the first thing that gets you. It's not the monster. It's the doubt. I stood there in the dim kitchen light, arguing with my own memory. Maybe I just thought I checked it. Maybe I checked the front door twice and skipped this one. I was carrying my bags. I was distracted. Stupid, I muttered to myself. My voice sounded thin in the big room. I walked over, grabbed the handle, and twisted the lock. Click. Horizontal. Locked. I pulled on the handle just to be sure. It held firm. I went to the bathroom, washed my face, and tried to shake off the creepiness. When I looked in the mirror, I looked pale, tired. Just go to bed, I thought. You're spooking yourself over nothing. I went back to the living room to turn off the TV. Buster was there now, sitting on the top of the couch, staring at the window asterisk. Hey, buddy, I said. You knocked something over earlier? He didn't look at me. He was fixated on the glass. His tail was twitching. Swish. I followed his gaze. All I saw was my own reflection, distorted by the double-paned glass and the darkness beyond. The rain smeared the outside world into blurry streaks. Come on, cat, I said. I turned off the TV. The room plunged into darkness, lit only by the faint glow of the microwave clock from the kitchen. I walked to the guest room. I closed the door. I locked it. I don't know why, but I locked the bedroom door. It felt safer. I crawled into bed, pulled the duvet up to my chin, and eventually, I slept. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. I know the time because I looked at my phone immediately. I didn't wake up groggy. I woke up instantly, heart hammering against my ribs, wide awake. Something had woken me. A sound. I lay there, scarcely breathing, straining my ears against the silence. The rain had stopped. The woods outside were dead quiet. The house was silent. Then I heard it creak. It came from the hallway. Just outside my door. It wasn't a settling noise. I know what settling sounds like. This was the specific rhythmic groaning of weight being placed on a floorboard. A slow, careful step. My blood turned into ice water. I lay rigid, my eyes wide open in the dark, staring at the seam of light under the bedroom door. Creak. Another step. Closer. My mind started racing, cycling through 1,000 impossible thoughts in a second. Is it Jerry? Did they come back early? Did they forget something? Jerry? I called out. My voice cracked. It was barely a whisper. No answer. The footsteps stopped. Right outside my door, I could feel a presence there. You know how you can just feel it? It's like the air pressure changes. Someone was standing on the other side of that thin piece of wood. Standing there, listening to me. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. My hand was shaking so badly, I almost knocked a glass of water over. I grabbed it. No signal. Come on, I whispered, panic rising in my throat like bile. Come on. One bar of LTE flickered, then vanished. The house was in a dead zone. I knew that. Jerry had told me to use the Wi-Fi for calls. I tapped the Wi-Fi icon. It was grayed out. The internet was down. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Okay. Don't panic. The storm probably knocked out the router. That happens. The footsteps. Maybe it was the cat. Buster is fat. Maybe he sounds heavy, but cats don't creak floorboards like that. Men do. I sat up slowly, the mattress springs protesting with a tiny squeak. I cringed. From the hallway, nothing. I waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5. The silence was heavier now. It felt thick, oppressive. I had to know. I couldn't just stay in that bed waiting to be murdered. I needed a weapon. I looked around the room. There was a heavy brass lamp on the dresser. I crept out of bed, my bare feet silent on the rug. I unplugged the lamp. It was heavy, solid. If I swung it hard enough. I moved to the door. I pressed my ear against the wood. Silence. I took a deep breath, gripped the lamp with both hands, and unlocked the door. Click. I threw the door open and swung the lamp up, ready to strike. The hallway was empty. Shadows stretched long and distorted from the living room down the hall, cast by the moonlight breaking through the clouds. But there was no one there. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. God, I whispered. You are losing it. You are actually losing your mind. I lowered the lamp. I felt foolish. I was a grown woman, cowering in a guest room because the house made a noise. I walked into the hallway. I needed water. My mouth was dry as sandpaper. I walked toward the kitchen. The house felt massive now, cavernous. Every shadow looked like a crouching figure. I kept turning my head, checking behind me. I got to the kitchen. I opened the fridge. The light was blinding. I grabbed a bottle of water and chugged half of it in one go. As I lowered the bottle, I looked at the kitchen island. My stomach dropped through the floor. There, sitting in the center of the pristine granite countertop, was a muddy boot print. It wasn't mine. I had taken my shoes off at the door, and it wasn't old. The mud was wet. It glistened in the fridge light. Someone had been standing on the counter? Why? Why would anyone? I looked up. Above the island was the access panel to the attic. It was slightly ajar. Just a crack. A sliver of blackness staring down at me. I backed away. I backed away until I hit the refrigerator. The cold metal bit into my back. Someone was in the house, asterisk, and they weren't just walking around. They had been up there, watching, waiting. Panic, real and raw, flooded my system. I needed to get out. I needed to leave. Forget the clothes, forget the keys. Just run. I turned to the back door. The one I had locked. It was wide open. Not just unlocked. Wide open. The night air was drifting in, cold and damp. The screen door was propped open with a rock from the garden. I spun around. They are here. They are watching me right now. Who's there? I screamed. It was a guttural sound, terrified and angry. I have a gun. I called the police. Lies. Useless lies. I didn't wait for an answer. I ran for the front door. I sprinted through the living room, my bare feet slapping against the concrete. I reached the massive oak front door and grabbed the handle. Lock. I fumbled with the deadbolt. It wouldn't turn. I twisted it harder, my fingers slipping on the metal. It was jammed, or someone had done something to it from the outside. Or the inside? I didn't know mechanics. I just knew it wouldn't move. No, I whimpered. I looked at the windows. Huge sheets of glass. I could break one. I could throw a chair through it. I grabbed a dining chair. A heavy, wooden thing. I raised it over my head and turned toward the big window overlooking the driveway. And then I saw him. He was standing outside. On the patio. Just beyond the glass. He wasn't a monster. He wasn't a ghost. He was just a man. He was wearing dark clothes, maybe a hoodie. He was standing perfectly still, his hands in his pockets, staring right at me. I froze. The chair held high. He didn't move. He didn't bang on the glass. He just watched. And then he smiled. It was a small, tight smile, almost polite. He raised one hand and pointed. Not at me. He pointed behind me, toward the hallway. I didn't want to turn around. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to keep my eyes on the threat I could see. But the fear was a puppet master. It jerked my head around. The hallway was dark. But at the far end, near the guest room I had just left, the bathroom door was slowly closing. Scree. There were two of them, one outside, one inside. I dropped the chair. It clattered loudly on the floor. I was trapped. The front door was jammed. The back door was open, but the man was right there, probably blocking the path. And the other one? The other one was in the house with me. I ran, but not outside. I ran to the only room that had a heavy lock. The master bedroom. It was on the opposite side of the house. I scrambled across the living room, knocking over a vase, not caring. I burst into the master bedroom and slammed the door. I threw the deadbolt. I dragged the heavy dresser in front of it. I backed into the corner of the room, panting like a dying animal. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor, my knees pulled to my chest. I listened. For a long time, there was nothing. Just the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then, the footsteps started again. Thump. Thump. Heavy. Boots on concrete. Slow. Deliberate. They weren't hiding anymore. They knew where I was. They walked right up to the bedroom door. Doorknob jiggled. Gently. Just testing it. Then, a knock. 3 sharp raps. Knock. 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 Go away. I screamed. I have a weapon. I swear to God I'll kill you. Silence. Then, a voice. It was muffled by the door, but I heard it clearly. It was a man's voice, calm, conversational. We just want to play, he said. I clamped my hands over my ears. I squeezed my eyes shut. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. I heard scratching on the door, like someone running a fingernail down the wood. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then, the sound of something metal being inserted into the lock. A picking tool? A key? I looked at the window in the master bedroom. It was on the 2nd floor. The house was built into a hill, so the back was higher up. It was a 20-foot drop to the rocky garden below, but I couldn't stay here. If that door opened, I ran to the window. I unlatched it and pushed it up. The cool night air hit my face. I looked down. It was dark, but I could see the outlines of bushes. I heard the lock on the bedroom door click. The dresser started to slide. Scrape. They were pushing it open. I didn't think. I couldn't think. I climbed onto the sill. I looked back one last time. A dirty, callous hand reached through the gap in the door and gripped the edge of the dresser. I jumped. I hit the bushes hard. Branches whipped my face, tearing at my skin. I felt a sharp, snapping pain in my left ankle as I landed on the uneven ground. I screamed, but the sound was lost in the wind. I rolled onto the wet grass, gasping. My ankle was on fire. I couldn't stand on it. I dragged myself. I crawled through the mud, pulling myself along by my elbows. I had to get to the woods. I had to hide. I looked back at the house. The light in the master bedroom was on now. 2 silhouettes stood in the window, looking down at me. They weren't hurrying. They were just watching. I crawled into the tree line. The pine needles dug into my hands. I found a hollow beneath the roots of a massive oak tree, a depression filled with dead leaves. I wedged myself into it, pulling the leaves over my body, curling into a ball. I lay there for hours. I heard them come outside. I heard their boots crunching on the gravel. I heard them whistling. A simple, happy tune. They walked around the garden. They swept flashlights' beams across the trees. "Here, kitty, kitty," one of them mocked. The light beam passed over my hiding spot. I held my breath until my lungs burned. The light lingered for a second, then moved on. They didn't look very hard. That was the worst part. They weren't hunting me like a deer. They were playing with me. They knew I was hurt. They knew I couldn't go far. They were enjoying the fear. Eventually, they went back inside. I saw the lights go out, one by one. The house went dark. I didn't move. I lay in the freezing mud, shivering uncontrollably, my ankle throbbing with a pulse of agony. I waited for the sun. I have never prayed so hard in my life. I prayed for the morning. I prayed for a police car. I prayed for a heart attack just so it would be over. Morning came slowly. The sky turned gray, then white. The birds started singing. It was perverse. How could the birds sing? I waited until the sun was fully up. I dragged myself out of the hole. I was covered in mud and blood. The house was silent. I crawled back towards the driveway. It took me an hour to get to the road. A delivery truck found me. The driver, a guy named Mike, saw me waving from the ditch. He stopped, looking horrified. "Jesus, miss, what happened?" he asked, helping me into the cab. "Call the police," was all I could say. The police came. They swept the house. They found nothing. No intruders. No wet boot prints on the counter. It had dried or been wiped clean. No forced entry marks on the front door. The back door was locked. They found my weapon, the lamp, on the floor of the hallway. They found the dresser moved in the master bedroom. They found the open window. But here's the kicker. The officer, a skeptical guy with a thick mustache, sat me down in the back of the ambulance while the EMTs wrapped my ankle. "Miss," he said, "we didn't find anyone, but we did find something odd in the attic." My blood ran cold. "What?" "Someone's been living up there," he said. "For a while, looks like. Sleeping bag, food wrappers, and they had a setup hooked into the vents." "What kind of setup?" I whispered. "A camera," he said, "wired right into the bedroom ceiling fan, pointing down at the bed. They never caught them." Jerry and Corinne came home early, horrified. They sold the house a month later. They couldn't stand to be there, knowing someone had been nesting above their heads, watching them sleep, learning their schedule. But that's not the end. That's not why I'm writing this. I'm writing this because I'm in my own apartment now. It's been 3 weeks. I live on the 4th floor. I have 3 locks on my door. I check them every night. The last night I came home from work. I unlocked the door. I walked in, and I smelled it. A faint, lingering scent. Not huge. Just a trace. Old, wet mud. And on my coffee table, right in the center, was my remote control. I always leave it parallel to the edge of the table. Always. It's a habit. It was turned slightly. Just a little bit. Angled toward the chair I sit in, I searched the apartment. I tore it apart. I looked in the closets, under the bed, in the vents. Nothing. But I know. I know that feeling. The change in air pressure. The weight of eyes. They didn't just want to scare me that night. They wanted to meet me. And now I think they followed me. I'm sitting here typing this, and the hallway outside my apartment is quiet. Too quiet. Wait. Did you hear that? Creak. It's just the building settling. It has to be. It's an old building. Creak. It's closer. I'm going to hit send now. I'm going to hit send, and then I'm going to lock myself in the bathroom. If anyone reads this, check your attics. Check your basements. Check the spaces you don't look at, because you might think you're alone. You might feel safe with your locked doors and your bright lights, but locks can be picked, and lights just make it easier for them to see you. I think the handle is turning. Goodbye.